It's 8:30. We're going to call this meeting of the Brookings County Commission to order with a Pledge of Allegiance. Item number 3 on the agenda is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Is there anyone in the audience who's signed in for those purposes? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, changes, or corrections?
We are adding a couple things to the exec session at the end. Item 13, we are going to add personnel and contract negotiations, so 125 to 1 and 4, along with the security discussion.
Any other additions by commissioners? Hearing none. Is there, all those in favor of approving the agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, recognition of employee anniversary. Commissioner Bartley.
All right, we'll turn this mic around so we can hear. We actually have 2 today that are 15-year anniversaries to recognize. It's a certificate of participation. Richard, if you want to come up first. This is presented to Richard Koffel on this first day of February 2022 by the Brookings County Commission in recognition of 15 years of dedicated exceptional service in the Brookings County Highway Department. Congratulations. And we have another 15-year veteran. Mike, come on up. Certificate of appreciation is presented to Michael Gingling on this first day of February 2022 by the Brookings County Commission in recognition of 15 years of dedicated exceptional service in the Brookings County Sheriff's Office. Congratulations. And you got a new jail.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. We'll move on to item number 6, the consent agenda items. We've got the approval of the minutes, approval of the travel requests, approval of personnel action notices, approval of cellular authorization, and approval of the human services report. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any comments? Hearing none, Jenna, please call the roll.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 7, routine business. We have approval of the claims. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Any comments? Questions? Hearing none, Jenna, please call the roll.
Bartley,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
7B, department head reports. We'll start with Brian.
Morning. Department head report. This is a list of the grants that we've received through the DOT and displaying each amount that we spent in 2021. Obviously, you can see right there at the top, it's the Sinai Bridge. We're still working on that. The second one, we're working through the process right now to get reimbursed our money through the DOT on the Bruce Bridge, which would be the second one there. And then obviously you can see the rest of them there. We work on right on down the line, all the way back down to our federal grants. I told you guys that I'd make sure you guys had a report in front of you on what we had spent, and if there's any questions, feel free to call, because we're spending a lot of money on bridges. So just food for your guys' thought. I know later on in the meeting we're going to talk about another bridge that we're going to ask to advertise for. And then we're going to be calling for bids here for our supplies and materials. And that's about what we got going on.
Any questions? No? Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
County Development Emergency.
Good morning.
Morning.
The written part of the January 26 is up on the board. Since January 26 at 9 a.m., my office has passed out, as of 8 o'clock this morning, 557 COVID-19 rapid test kits. When you combine that number with what the community health nurse down in South Main has been giving out, that's probably close to 1,000 kits that we've given out as a county. And county fire departments were allocated 864 kits for their members. We submitted our quarterly local emergency management program grant on last Friday. Wind advisories, obviously, one was issued yesterday. One was issued yesterday for this morning. And if anyone is a light sleeper, you heard that wind when it came in this morning. And then all county departments have been given COVID-19 tests. We divided up what kits we was given for the county, and each employee got the same amount. So, and coming up in 2 weeks, you've got the township meeting, and Office of Emergency Management has requested that they be allowed to come and talk about the public assistance program. That is when townships get affected by flooding and things like that, snow removal. I spoke with Misty Mosier, and we are going to let them come in and speak for about a half an hour. That's the best way. The bigger bang for the buck is to get all the township people there at one time and talk to them. And later today, there is a Pipeline Association luncheon over at the Swiftel Center where they're going to talk about the pipelines in Brookings County. We've got the home show coming up February 12 and 13. We do plan on purchasing a weather radio for a door prize to give away during that. And I've got a travel request in for next time. It was too late to get it in for this meeting. There's a class in Sioux Falls called Flood Fight Operations put on by the state of South Dakota. I'm going to send Richard down to it. I've had the course a couple years ago, and that's February 8 and 9. I'm going to go ahead and have Richard attend that, and we got the late travel request in. In the packet, I had 2 documents. One document was on a pipeline session that I attended. It was only an informational session. It was not advertised as a public meeting, so it wasn't conducted like a public meeting. It was run as an information meeting. And if there's any concerns from the commission about this particular pipeline coming in, once it starts to get, it hasn't even been sent to the Public Utilities Commission yet. Once it's sent to the Public Utilities Commission, then we can start asking the hard questions that we need to ask, and they would have to answer through the Public Utilities Commission. So, and then last but not least, I do have my end-of-year report up. Are there any questions on it specifically? I won't go down each line item. But the COVID-19 really hasn't affected us the last 2 years drastically like you would think. You would think the world was coming to an end to hear some of the horror stories throughout the nation, but we've held our own, and we'll continue to move. And we still got COVID-19 test kits for the public listening. If you want one, we've got probably close to 200 of them left downstairs, give or take. Once we run out, we'll have to put a sign up saying, sorry, we're out. And but we'll give out what we've got, and we'll go from there. Any questions?
Commissioner Pierce.
The 14 variances issued by Planning and Zoning last year, type of variance, or is it that 100-foot setback in the front yard, or, that kind of thing?
Well, they vary quite a bit. Most of it, even though we did reduce the setbacks on the lakes, we're still getting those.
Yeah.
Because of the way the lake houses were built, 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
So that's our biggest predominant one. Usually the variance is on the 100-foot setbacks. Those are, once again, homes that's been there for 100 years or so from homesteading days. And they got farmland all the way around them, and it just doesn't make sense to push them back into a farm field when it's been there all that long. And the snow, you know, we look at all aspects on a variance, such as snow removal and stuff like that. So
And-
usually if they're there and they get a variance for the 100-foot setback, usually there's either some mitigating thing that doesn't hurt that house to be there.
And the reason for my question is I was just wondering if there's anything that we need to address in the revisions of the zoning ordinance for the ag area. The Lake Park stuff is already done, but
Right, well, we're always monitoring that, and obviously, as we move forward, we'll keep an eye on that for you,
thank you.
for the commission.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Thanks, Bob. Lori, anything from the finance office?
Nothing today, thanks.
Marty?
Good morning.
Morning.
Just give you a quick, at the present time, we have 25 in jail. I did talk to the sheriff in Moody County, and their commission did sign the contract, but I just haven't got it yet, so actually that contract starts today with Moody County for housing their inmates. Things are going well at the jail. The kitchen and so forth, and we've got trustees working to help out and stuff. So they hired a manager, and he came from a local restaurant with, I think he's got like 7 or 8 years as a kitchen manager in one of the restaurants. So he's going to be a good addition to the kitchen management and stuff. We resumed 24/7. We have 19 participants in the come in and blow twice a day. We have 12 on remote breath test, and remote breath test, this is a little machine that takes their picture as they blow into it. We got 17 coming in for UAs. I have 14 on scram bracelets. We have 16 on drug court. We have 3 in Hope Court. We have 2 in DWI court. I have 6 on GPS that we track. And at present time, we have 2 on work release in the jail. Also, since we moved into the expansion, the jail incidents have went down to like 0 so far. So the only incident we've had so far is somebody had something in their cell that they shouldn't have, but it wasn't illegal. It's just they were hiding some extra food or something. Must have wanted a snack. I don't know. But so that's helped out a lot with the extra room, having just the larger day rooms and that. Also, I'm working with city, municipality, or utilities, getting the proper documentation for rebate for the jail with the lighting and stuff. When we put our lighting in, we're able to get some rebates. Like they thought around $2,000 to $4,000 a year a rebate. So I mean, it adds up. So we'll see. I just getting the proper documentation. Every time I send them something, they need something else. So we'll get that down. So other than that, the staff has stayed busy. We still continue to have deer accidents in the mornings, and when the roads are slippery, we at 6 to 8, we have a lot of traffic, especially coming from the west through Volga, and it's just trying to keep up with that. So, you guys have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Marty. And you'll all note that the BCOAC update is in your packets. Let's see.
BCOAC had a handout this morning.
Okay, so we'll move on to, let's see, regular business at this time. Item 9A, action to approve abatement number 22-09, an abatement request made by Shane Johnson Living Trust, parcel number 20000-11150-193-00, in the amount of $290.80. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Hearing none. Call the roll, please.
Jensen,
Yes.
Krogman,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Boersma,
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9B, action to approve agreement number 22-07, a Brookings County Pictometry purchase agreement between Brookings County and Brookings Municipal Utilities. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one?
So this is for our, I believe it's does it say the 5th flyover for Pictometry? And we partner with, you'll see there's 3 of these coming up. We partner with BMU, the City of Brookings, and the E911 Council on this. All of those other entities have already approved this agreement, so now it's just the formal process of approving them here at the county level. And then we will move forward accordingly with this. And then just to note, I mean, that is the price that's listed there, but then we do get subscriptions to Beacon, and some money comes off of that as we get revenue. We give that back to all 4 entities, get to see that revenue. So,
Any questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Krogman?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9C, action to approve agreement number 22-08, a Brookings County Pictometry purchase agreement between Brookings County and the City of Brookings. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? Same thing, different entity. Yep. Hearing no further discussion, call the roll, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9D, action to approve agreement 22-09, a Brookings County Pictometry purchase agreement between Brookings County and East Central Regional Community Council for E911. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Boersma?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 9E, I believe we have to call.
I have to get Misty on the phone here, so if you give me just 1 second.
Yep. We have to call Misty.
Give me just 1 second. Yep. Hello.
Hi, Misty, you are live in the meeting. And
All right.
we're
Good morning,
ahead of
all.
Morning.
Good morning. Item 9E, action to approve weed and chemical bids on all items listed. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or comments from Misty?
This is just to let you know that we did open, we did open bids on January 26th at 9 a.m. And then at 9:30 a.m., we also had a weed and pest board meeting to go over the bids. The board accepted all bids because of the availability of chemicals, as you can see in my report. There's just a few chemicals that we can really use and we will have access to. Just want to let you know it'll be Freelex and High Def 24D. They are both labeled for the right-of-ways, and I suggest that's what we go for money-wise and supply.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Just any environmental concerns regarding either of those 2 chemicals?
No, I don't have any at this time. They're both aquatic.
Thank you.
Misty, we were using grassland there for a while. I was thinking we were going to keep using that.
We can only get so much grassland. If you look down at your report, and I'm not sure if you have that up so everybody else can see, Stacy. Grassland Egg First only has one 250-gallon tote at $40 a gallon. But otherwise, nobody else had bid Grassland L except for Vandy Supply. And they have it in 2x2s and 250-gallon totes. I mean, that's an option, but we're looking at a more expensive price per gallon, which is $44.
Right.
The reason we were thinking going with the Freelex is it's $25.50 per gallon, just to try and save some money.
Okay.
Did I answer your question, Ryan?
Yeah, but I was thinking we were using grassland for more of the residual effect over the years. We knew it was more expensive last year, and we still, used it there. And I was just thinking, being consistent with it was more of an investment than it was a cost factor. So, and that's fine. If
Okay.
that's the decision you guys make, that's fine too, especially if there's not enough around. Doesn't make sense to if we can't use all of it, so.
Right, and then also the reports I've been getting from the chemical suppliers is they cannot get Tordon and they cannot get 2,4-D. So that's kind of, and I know it's a catch-22 there, but that's kind of why the board and I decided Freelex and, high depth 2,4-D.
Okay.
If we can get Grassland, I will sure do that.
No, that's fine. I mean, you got to fit what's in
Okay.
the budget too, so.
Right, we use the grassland L on the county roads, and if availability comes, I mean, if we happen to be able to buy some, I'm sure you're going to use that again on the county roads for sure, and then just the townships that request it, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions?
I do want to note too, I handed out some additional information from Misty. There was a stapled sheet. The first couple pages were the agenda for the upcoming Towns and Townships meeting that's on the 14th of February. And then the last page was some information that Misty had put together on spraying costs over the last few years. So just an FYI.
Is there any questions on that spraying cost?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. And then also, while we're talking about the spraying cost, the weed board also discussed raising the cost, for man-hours spraying townships from $10 to $20 an hour. And then also for truck hours or trucks, it was $10 when we raised that to $20 an hour. So it's a total of $40 an hour now to spray a township.
Sounds good.
Is there any other questions for me?
I don't think so, and none on the motion on the table. While we're on that motion, if there's no further discussion on that item, Jenna, will you call the roll on that, please?
Jensen,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Misty.
Thanks,
Okay.
Misty.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Item 9F, action to approve the bid letting for 2022 Bridge Improvement Grant Project BRF 6030, parentheses 00, 19-2, PCN 076E for structure number 06-112-080. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or comments, Brian?
Yeah, there was a preservation grant awarded to us on 3/28 of 2019. I've got it in my report. So far, we've spent about $38,387.50 on it. Total that we'll spend on this is $89,400. I guess that's going to depend on what the bids come in at, but this bridge is located south of Bruce on County Road 6. It's directly south of Bruce, and what I'm bringing this forward to you today is we're looking at putting this out for bid to be opened on the 15th of February at 1 o'clock downstairs. And this would be a project that would be administered locally, so Banner and I'd be working with this together, and we'd be reimbursed by the state.
You mentioned getting reimbursed for the other bridge. You said you're still waiting. Is there something?
We've got all of our documents submitted, and I will let you guys know when we receive that money.
Any other questions, Commissioners?
Just,
Bartley?
what would the timeline be on this particular project be?
It'd be construction this year. What it is be epoxy deck overlay.
So how many days? Are we talking pretty quickly?
I guess we'd have to find, it's going to be open. It'll be opened all summer long. It's only probably going to be closed down to one lane during construction.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item G, Action to approve a request to fill vacancy for temporary election workers in the finance office. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Jenna? Lori?
This would be 3 positions working the absentee process and in the voting room next to our office.
Any other questions by the commissioners? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Stacy, Commission Department Director's Report. I don't know if 5 minutes is adequate, but we
Probably
can
not,
start.
but we can sure get started. Let me bring my report up here. The VSO report was part of my report for Courtney had provided some information. December slower with the holidays, 48 visits, appointments, cases that she worked, and a couple of outreach events. We can start going through. In your packet, I had the 2021 year in review. So if we kind of just start paging through this and get as far as we can until we get to 9 o'clock. So here was you folks and who is the chair and the vice chair from last year. A list of all of our county department heads, elected, appointed, and then a couple that we have as state employees. Number of employees by department. This was at year end for each department.
Stacy, do you have what's the growth in any of that?
I don't in this report, no. I mean, I have that information, but
I'd like to see what the growth was last year because we did a lot of changes last
yeah,
year.
yeah,
during the year.
I can definitely do that. So here's our general fund expenses, the departmental overview. And this is at year end what each individual department spent. So you can see by the bar graph that the sheriff and the county and the jail were the most. Now this doesn't include the jail project. This is just expenses that they incurred. And then down from there you can see some of the other departments that were the higher departments, state's attorney, judicial, commission, finance are pretty darn close to each other. Equalization, IT is up there. So this shows what the beginning budget was of each department, kind of taking into account some contingency transfers or budget supplements and what their ending budget was. You can't add all of these up and get what rolls into fund balance because you also have to take into account revenue with that. So, revenue minus what was left with expenses. So, but this total over here, that $4,400,000, that is the amount that rolled into fund balance in the general fund at year end last year. I know that's always something, a number that you folks want to know.
I want to say that one more time so I'm sure I understand that. So at the end of December of 21, we had about $4 million that rolled back into general fund.
Yes.
How does
Yep.
that compare with prior years where we weren't on a cash basis?
I don't know. I'd have to look back to see.
Mhm.
I don't know that it would matter. I don't think cash basis would affect it a whole lot, though, as I kind of think through it just high level in my head. It might be a little bit higher because we didn't have payables. That's the only thing that I would think that would affect it, because that anything that, got paid out in January that got pushed back into the previous year. So it would basically be that amount, but I don't think it would be a significant change just due to cash basis. And then we have other county funds. You can see Road and Bridge Fund. You can see the Detention Center project. Those kind of make everything else very skewed because those are so much larger. But you can see what we spent with other funds there. And then similar to that last spreadsheet I showed you, beginning budget, ending budget, unspent that went into fund balance by each of those different funds.
Before we move on, we do have a scheduled 9 o'clock, so I don't know if this is a good stop.
Yep, this is
kind of
fine.
pause point for that, Stacy. But our scheduled 9 o'clock public hearing and action to approve resolution number 22-05 is a resolution providing for at-large election of county commissioners. And this happens every year, the first meeting of even years, in the first meeting in February for even years. So is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second?
Hearing a motion in a second. This is a public hearing, so if there are any comments from the public, we'll open the public hearing at this time. Are there any proponents of the motion on the table? Any proponents? Any opponents of the motion? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any
Just to clarify, this actually only happens once a decade.
Oh,
It happens in February of years that end in the number 2.
oh,
And I
gotcha.
think you look at the census numbers, and I think, those come in every decade, then they compile those numbers. And so then in February of the year that ends in 2, you look at that for redistricting purposes, or you choose to be at-large elections. And so thank goodness for Outlook calendar reminders, because once every 10 years is not something that someone remembers just off the cuff. So yes, that's what this is. So, and we've been at large for, 20 plus years. So
Thanks for the clarification, Stacy. Any further comments or discussion on this item? Jenna, call the roll, please.
Krogman?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen? Boersma?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I don't know if we want to bounce back and forth, or if we want to allow our 9:05 to come up and start on that, since it's not really a public hearing per se, it's an update. So Dwayne, if you want to come up on behalf of the research park and talk through our kind of annual update.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. All right. We can just start with the board members. So, Research Park is set up by appointed or by position. So, regardless of who is in that position, whether this year it's Opie or Ryan as the Brookings County, you guys select that person. So that's the makeup of the board. And then I did want to introduce Megan Jansen. She started about a year ago. She's the Director of Operations for the Research Park and the Brookings Innovation Center. So that kind of gets it rolling. And before I go any further, I'm pretty much always all business, as you can tell, but thank you for the opportunity. It's nice to see a bunch of smiling faces this morning. And again, thank you for your ongoing support to grow the community and the county of Brookings and the region. So the Research Park is really a regional approach to economic development. It's not set up just for Brookings. We worked with startups from Aberdeen, Marshall, Huron, Sioux Falls. Some of our companies actually have landed in Sioux Falls and other parts. So it's kind of an exciting opportunity that we have, and we've given to the eastern part of the state that we take care of. So the next one, please. Can't remember what I've done. So we started off here about 3 or 4 years ago with a 10-year strategic plan. And so we're 4 years into that. And it really laid out how we were going to move forward over this next decade. And we had 10 specific takeaways from that, and I won't get into them all, but we've accomplished all of them, and some of them we've already checked the box and put them to bed. And one of the exciting ones was Access SDSU, where we took it upon ourselves at the park to be a point of contact for industry and really worked hard to create that atmosphere. And then we were so fortunate when the new VPR of research was brought on, Dr. Scholl, then his office took that over from us. So it's really a good partnership between SDSU and the research park on that front. We have partnered with a developer on this current building on the Bioproducts facility. They're located out of Salt Lake City, and there may or may not be future partnerships with them, but the one thing we're excited about is they do have the capacity to underwrite up to $50 million projects without any bank financing or anything like that. So it makes it a real solid organization for us to work with. Next one. This just lays out the funding, points out where you folks are. The city, the Board of Regents through the Joint Committee Appropriations, and then this year, Vision Brookings will be at $75,000. So our budget is roughly $685,000. You see, we do generate income from the tenants, and so that helps offset any shortfall that we have. So we are roughly 100% occupied. We did have a company just leave here in the last few weeks, but we still have a waiting list. Currently over 50 businesses in the park, or just in the Brookings Innovation Center, about 55 in the research park itself. There's over 83 people working in the Brookings Innovation Center at this time. So 55 overall. Over 120 companies now that we've assisted in the past 7 years. And I believe we're at like 410 jobs have been created from those companies, so that's pretty exciting. Those companies have invested over $250 million of capital just into Brookings County. That doesn't count what they've invested when they've come here, incubated, and moved to a different location, so we've not tracked that. But I will say to that point, we're in the process of engaging with a third-party company that works on economic impacts, and so they will get started on that for the research park specifically starting next Monday. So we're working through getting the facts and things for them over the next couple weeks, and so by the end of March, middle of March, we'll have a economic impact study completed by a third-party organization. So we're pretty excited about that. In the past, it's been completed by Dwayne. So I'm pretty confident in my numbers, but this gives us another outside look. So somewhat of an audit, if you will. So next slide. These are some of the startups. So we're pretty excited. This past year and a half, even during the pandemic, we had 5 to 6 startups, and they're doing very well. The ADS organization, Prairie Biotech, and Delate are ones that moved into wet lab space. So if I know most of you have all been to the research park, to the Brookings Innovation Center. In the back room there, that Suite 153, where it was the large meeting room, we turned that into 3 wet labs. And so we are able to help 3 startups get going this past year, just that are focused on biochemistry and focused on testing of results. One was a federal grant that has turned into a business, so it's pretty exciting. They're all related to SDSU in one way or another. So we are very thankful. We did receive, as you all know, $20 million from the legislators this past year, and that money is being spent prudently. We have all of the footings in for that 44,000 square foot building right now. It's my understanding within about 14 days, the walls will go into production with Gage Brothers. It's tip-up construction. And so those walls will start showing up sometime in March, end of March. So you'll start seeing a lot of things. But the nice thing is we got started in October, and we had a nice warm fall, so we were able to get all the footings in. Some of the other things we're working on next slide there, please, Stacy. So one of the things I didn't get into much detail on earlier slide was the strategic plan we completed with the College of Engineering. So we worked with the former Dean Brown and did a real diligent feasibility study, and we brought in a consultant to help us that does this for a living, and we looked at what's going on at the College of Engineering and interviewed probably 40 different faculty from that college. Out of that, we generated nearly 7 business opportunities. Some are succeeding, some obviously didn't work out, but it really built a strong relationship with the College of Engineering. And so now we're getting ready to enter into that same process with the College of Natural Sciences. So hopefully, the hope was to get started in January. It didn't quite work out, so we'll get rolling here as soon as we can, but we're pretty excited about that. We're going to be doing it a little bit more internal this time as opposed to bringing in outside help. So it'll take us just a little bit longer to get it done, but we just in the early conversations with some of the departments, we're finding a lot of potential for companies, and that's really what we're trying to find, the next Daktronics, if you will. So our next project we're working on, the board did approve for me to go ahead and start bringing on potential companies and partnerships to start the Brookings Accelerator, which would be a 15 million or 50,000 square foot facility. We have received a letter of interest from one organization that would occupy 10,000 square feet. So if we stay course with our current developer at this point, I need about 5,000 more square feet of that with interest, letters of interest or intent, and they're willing to start building. So we're pretty excited about that. So we do have meetings lined up with potential companies that would like to take some of that space. So this is what the new building will look like. We're pretty excited about that. 44,000 square foot. Since this building, the groundbreaking back in November, probably have had at least a half a dozen phone calls from out-of-state companies wanting to come to Brookings to work with SDSU in that facility. So we're just working through the process. We still don't quite know exactly what will go on in there on a day-to-day basis, but we're getting that figured out. So that is really right now on the shoulders of Dr. Scholl and Ralph Davis from South Dakota Mines. So the two of them are working to develop what's called the Dakota Bioproducts Institute, and that will be the management organization that oversees the day-to-day activities within the building. The Growth Partnership will still own the building and receive, take care of the common maintenance and all of that, but the Institute will be a part of recruiting industry and determining what types of research projects are forthcoming in that. But we'll be with them hand in hand and help them with the recruiting efforts. So all real exciting stuff. Thank you again for this opportunity and for the funding, and we're pretty excited about what the future looks like for Brookings and the county and the region. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Thank you.
Yes. All right.
This is
Okay.
back to Stacy for a bit.
So this slide shows non-mandated funding. As you know, you go through that process of funding each year. So this shows on a graph what dollars go where.
Stacy, I have a question before you move on.
Yeah.
You know, the slide just before this one, that one. So on the domestic abuse program, where it says unspent rolled to fund balance, how does a non-mandated program end up having money that rolls back into fund balance?
So this is not non-mandated. This is a domestic abuse fund. So this is money in.
That's marriage license money?
Yes. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. We do, that's by statute, the money that we get comes in, goes back out. The shelter itself is requests funds from us annually. That just goes kind of out as a lump sum, as a non-mandated, out of general fund. So this is a whole separate fund. All of these are not included in general fund dollars. They're their own fund.
But that's the marriage license
Yes.
money dedicated to domestic abuse programs. How come we have leftover money in that? I didn't quite understand that.
So I think, Lori, you can help explain some of that. I think at year end of 2020, there was money that went out that shouldn't have. I think we kind of overspent that. And so we were just kind of making that up this year. That's why there's some money left over in that.
Thank you.
But yeah, and I think in visiting with Lori and Jennifer, there's a few of these funds, domestic abuse being one of them, E911 being the other, that it truly is money in, money out. And why it's set up as its own fund is kind of, be honest, it's always been that way. But I think we need to visit with legislative audit about that, because if there is money at year end and it doesn't get spent, then it looks like there's money that rolls into a fund balance, and it really shouldn't be. It really should be almost like a 700 account, like the cities, the townships, the schools, where whatever money we go in each month, we apportion that out right back out to them. And those two funds specifically, I think we've all feel should be treated that way, because E911 is the surcharge. Am I saying that right? The surcharge money off cell phones. Yeah. And so that is X amount of dollars comes in, that goes back out to the E911 or just to dispatch. So it gets a little wonky when you're dealing with a separate fund and there's some money left, and then it looks like you have a balance and you really shouldn't have a balance. And I don't know why they're treated as its separate fund. I feel like they should just be 700 accounts and money in, money out. But it's something that we're going to visit with legislative audit about and see. I mean, I'm sure statutorily there's a reason for it, but maybe have some conversations about those. So. Non-mandated funds, any questions on any of that? So this was revenue that was generated both in the general fund and then the road and bridge fund are represented here. So you can see general fund, by far the greatest amount of revenue that we get is our property taxes that fund the general fund. A little bit with goods and services and some intergovernmental revenue, but clearly property taxes funds that general fund. And then for road and bridge fund, it's transfers, insurance, some surplus money. There is some intergovernmental dollars coming in there. Very small portion is funded by taxes for the road and bridge fund. And these are kind of all of those other funds. The colors kind of match up with the fund down at the bottom. You can see that we, bond proceeds with the detention center was big there. ARPA was the other big one that we got in. We got in half of our ARPA funds last year, so that's showing up there in that big long red line there. But yeah. So kind of a revenue recap by fund. The general fund, we received actually 105% of budgeted revenue. So just over 700,000 more than we anticipated getting in. Road and Bridge Fund received 95% of budgeted revenue, so just a little bit less than what we had anticipated. Emergency Management was the same, just a little bit less than what we had anticipated for revenue. The Relief Fund was 109% of budgeted revenue. That sounds like maybe a lot, but it's a small fund, so just shy of 2,000 more. And then the county building, the 301 fund, 93% of budgeted revenue. So we're really close. I mean, I think that's pretty good when you're looking out. When we do this budget, we're 7 months out from even that start of that year. So it's kind of a moving target, but I think we've done pretty well.
Are you able to tell from your work on this, the 5% that we were over on the general fund, Was that real estate taxes, or was that sprinkled through everything, or?
It wasn't taxes, because tax is a pretty
Right.
set amount. It's
Exactly.
just other like goods and services, some other things that just kind of come in that, maybe a little bit more than we're not anticipating. So, yeah. So general fund, here's just this is a comparison over the last 3 years where we're at with revenue. So 2021 is the dark blue, 2020, 2019 in the green. So you can see expenditures were up in general fund, but some of that can be explained by our transfers out to specifically the jail project. So that's why that looks so much more skewed than other years. Fund balance, you can see, continues to grow at a steady pace. But we may see that drop as we start spending down some of these and doing some of these projects. You'll see that probably level off. And then assets dropped a little bit, but nothing to be concerned about. And liabilities, you can hardly see them on this sheet. They didn't print off very well, but pretty consistent there. And then I did the same type of graph for Road and Bridge Fund. You can see comparisons over the last couple years. And the revenue on Road and Bridge jumped. We did put $2 million over from general fund to pay for the Interchange project. So that's why that revenue looks a little bit higher last year. And the same thing for County Building Fund. And again, the expenditures look really, really high because we did a large transfer out of that fund into the jail project as well. So a lot of this can be explained by some pretty major projects that we've been involved with. So update on bridge projects. This is really, really tiny, but Brian provided me with this information, so I really appreciate that. I can try to blow it up here. It kind of goes back to where we were, things that are still going on that maybe started in previous years, and then even looking out into the future on some of these big grants and federal grant projects. If you get a chance to look through that and have any questions, please let us know. Reduce that back down. And there we are, as you were all there. So here we go. This is the jail project. It was in progress. As you all know, we broke ground in October of 2020. Still estimated at about $18 million. That really hasn't changed, which is good. We did have an open house in the first part of December. A lot of people came through. I wish we could have counted heads. It was about impossible, though, to do that for as many people as came through there. But it was good. That was an open house for that first phase, the new jail phase of this project. We're still on track to be done, wrapped up in the summer, this summer, June. Probably nobody more happy about that than Marty. Working with BKV, been working with them on this since 2016, and Henry Carlson is our project manager out of Sioux Falls. But you can see this is when that jail was underway, in progress. And we took a tour, and we're all there. And then I just included a few other pictures, them literally pushing the cells into place when those came in. We did the steel cells. They came in stacked like this, right on top of the other, and they got them to an entrance and wheeled them in on dollies and rolled them into place. All but put together, basically. And so that's kind of what they look like, that second picture there. Just some other some pictures as the jail progressed. Them setting these large concrete panels was interesting to watch. Those crane operators are amazing folks at what they do. And then again, just another picture of kind of the jail cells in progress. And that's that report. If we want to take a break there, I see Dave Jacobson is here to talk fire department stuff. If we want to stop there, that would be a good place to take a break.
I
Sounds,
just want to thank you, Stacy, for that report. It's very complete. Thank you.
yeah. Other commissioner comments on that?
A lot quicker because we are on cash basis now, because the finance office can wrap up year end a lot faster on cash basis. Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeing this until probably sometime in March. So
Great. Well, we'll do our 9:30 agenda item, action to approve a funding request for the Aurora Fire Department from the current year and long-term funds. Present it first, and then we'll do the,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Jacobson with the Brookings County Firefighters Association. The Aurora Fire Department is purchasing a new to them fire apparatus. It's 2009. And I don't know, maybe Stacy provided this to you, but total cost is $175,000. And they're requesting $80,000, which would be broke up from two funds. $70,000 from their long-term account and then $10,000 from our current 2022 budgeted account for a total of $80,000. And then the remainder of that obviously is coming from the city of Aurora. And I believe the check would be made out to the city of Aurora, as they'll be paying the whole balance all in one. So
as you know, we roll, leftover budget into that long-term fund. And then on the association side, they know each fire department has an allocation of that long-term fund, and then they each have an allocation of current year budget as well. So Aurora is going to be using up their allocation of both dollars current year and then the long-term fund for this particular piece of equipment.
yeah, and they've been saving quite a while for this project, so it's good to see it finally happen.
So Aurora's basically using up 8 years of their allocation, and
I'm not sure exactly how long they've been saving, but quite a while, to accumulate that amount of money. Definitely quite a while.
because typically they get about 10,000 a year.
Yeah, it
so-
varies. Some departments, we limit the departments that are outside of Brookings County, but service portions of Brookings County to X amount of dollars. Certainly less than what those of us that cover 100% of territory in Brookings County receive. But yeah, they've been saving quite a while, and that's the goal of this, is to be able to bank stuff that's, for a rainy day or a big capital purchase like this. So it's good to see it being used for something that'll definitely benefit county residents that are protected by the Aurora Fire Department.
Is there any time limits placed on this, that they have to use it or lose it or any of that kind of thing?
It's usually not a problem spending money, but not to my knowledge. As an organization, we've never put any time restraints on it. With the Volga Fire Department, I know we've saved for, when we had a narrow band in the county, if you guys are familiar with that we had to replace truck radios, and that was an expensive project, and I know we had banked some for that. And we've also built 2 of our own tanker trucks on chassis. We've got some pretty talented individuals on our department and are able to kind of do a lot of that metal fab and stuff, kind of work ourselves. But we've used county funds to help, build brush trucks and tanker trucks that primarily service rural residents.
We want to make sure it gets used. We'd hate to have a town sit there with a huge fund, have needs, and not use it, and stuff. So I'm glad to see Aurora's doing this. I'm glad they're using their funds, and I just hope all of them are taking advantage of it.
Just scanning through, this is last year's budget, Aurora by far had the highest dollar amount banked, by far. So I can't tell you how long they've been saving, but obviously quite a while. So
Glad to see them use it.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the request for funding from and long-term fund for this truck?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick question,
Yeah.
if I may, Madam Chair. What's the total amount in the long-term budget collectively for all departments?
2021 end of year reserve cash fund, 363, 125, 93.
You had mentioned that Volga had did some things with some radios and their vehicles. Where are we at with the rest of the departments as far as the radios? I know it's a big deal with communications right now. I know Bob's not here at the moment, but we've been fighting this since I've been here on the county commission to update radios and make everything work together and put up towers and so forth. Where do you think we're at with that? And do we use those funds, or do you use those funds? You said Volga used some funds for that. Do the rest of the departments have access to those funds for radio things? I mean, we're in a year where things may change drastically with ARPA funding on what we could do with radios, and the state's looking at it too. But is your organization looking at it from all the departments as a collective to let's get this radio thing figured out this year or
Okay,
the next
to
2 or 3
clarify,
years?
when I mentioned radios earlier, that the Volga Fire Department had used some money for radios. That was when, I'm going to say 5, 6, 7 years ago, when the whole country basically had to narrow band the radio system. And basically that was just an effort from the government to free up frequency space in the spectrum of radios. That was used for base station radio, handheld radios, and truck radios, so physically mounted in trucks. What you're getting at, Mike, I believe, is the radio communication problems we've had in Brookings County. To fill you guys in on that, maybe for Volga anyway, we've installed a repeater on the top of our water tower. We did that 3 months ago. Big difference. What we lost with that, some of us that work in Brookings have to rely on our cell phone to get a text page versus hearing our pager go off. So I work at Bobcat. I don't get, once in a while, if the weather's just right, I'll get a page on my pager. But most of the time we have to rely on the phone text or go stand by a window or get outside or something to hear what's going on. But way better communications for us in Volga and around Volga. In the last 3 months, we haven't had many calls, thankfully, that are rural, outside, out in the country or west toward Arlington to really test it out yet. But the tests we've done on our own, just out driving around night and day, having a repeater on top of our water tower. Initially, Aurora was piggybacking with us. You said Bob's not here?
Right. No.
Initially, Aurora was piggybacking with us. So when dispatch would tone them out, it would bounce off our repeater and tone Aurora out. And I believe they have since moved to Elkton. It's not perfect, and I think eventually Aurora will end up with their own repeater as well.
Yes.
It's not. Sioux Falls Two-Way felt that it was going to be a benefit to them to be on our water tower, and it really wasn't, based on topography. And they have since moved to Elkton, so now they're being bounced off the Elkton repeater, but I'm betting in the future that they have their own. But night and day difference for us.
I guess my question really relied to this particular fund that you have. Is that used for any of those types of communication errors? Is that strictly on the county's budget?
City,
What's
maybe,
the
and
answer?
county.
City and county. Through the
No, 'cause-
911 fund?
E911. is
Yeah,
part of that.
because technically it's a city dispatch system.
Right.
And I don't know, I don't know how that gets funded.
Okay.
But to answer your question, Mike, that, whatever it costs to put our repeater on our water tower, Elkton's on Elkton's, White's on White's, I don't believe anything has come out of here.
That's all E911, I believe.
That is, yeah, it's all E911. This one really historically has been used for equipment needs for the departments. So they plan, like Aurora did, over time, if bank up that fund to buy something that they know they're going to need. As far as radios needed for, or updated radios because of some of these changes coming down, I think we need to look at, that's more like an E911, a different pot of money for communications. So this is more physical equipment, trucks, things of that nature. So
I haven't, I'm not overly familiar with the radio changes that are coming. I know there are some. Our current chief is more up on that than I am as far as the Volga Fire Department's concerned. But I know there's some coming, and I'm sure it won't be cheap.
No.
mean, there's not a lack of needs to use a fund for. Typically used for trucks. An example in our department, realizing our bunker gear, what's a set of bunker gear now cost?
Head to toe, probably 3,000,
Per,
maybe.
If that's per person. I mean, we're looking at a large expenditure in white because we realized our bunker gear is out of service. I mean, it's expiring, and it's a large expense that hopefully a grant comes along, but if not, we might have to use this fund also for some bunker gear. So,
I guess my point is that, yeah, this is equipment and hard goods needs, like what you mentioned, Commissioner Jensen, but if we have ARPA funds available, we need to have an organized effort on your organization to come up with projects and costs, things that would qualify for us to consider those expenditures sooner rather than later out of this fund, but grants from the ARPA fund. So I'd encourage you to go back to your organization and say, look, there may be an opportunity for us to update some other things besides just trucks that we can use funds for. So I guess I'm encouraging you to come back with some plans from not just one department, from collectively all the departments.
Certainly, we try to spend these funds because they're generated from the county on items or equipment that's going to benefit the county. And for an example, the brush truck that we built, the 2 tanker trucks that we've built, are certainly rural usage. Not that we don't have the potential to use a brush truck or a tanker in the city limits, but primarily, county usage, and that's kind of what we've stressed for a lot of this money to go towards, because that's where it's derived from, is the county. So we had to cancel a meeting a couple weeks ago, and we've got that rescheduled for February for our organization, so I'll be sure to bring that up.
Just something, food for thought, to bring it up, because I know we'll be having those discussions. Excuse me, what projects we can use those funds for. And fire and safety is obviously a big one.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. Any further conversation among the commissioners? If not, call roll, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Boersma.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
thanks, Dave.
One more time back to Stacy.
Last time. So the work plan, I made some updates. Red, the highway department completed the culvert inventory. All townships ended up signing on to have the county do that project, so that got done last year. Budget supplements will be done at the next meeting, I believe, for the Sinai Bridge and the Interchange project. Jail expansion, just an updated with the open house. We did move in. I could have added that. We moved into the new jail very 1st of January, about a month ago now. Some other updates. Beta, there was some additional fund balance that was assigned in general fund at year end, plus another $200,000 that was in the 301 fund. So we have $400,000 now assigned for the Beta bus garage out at the highway shop when and if that project happens, that they can move somewhere else. I think I'd had on here for quite some time about a bike path for 214th or 213th, but I updated that to say that we did assign $1 million for the 214th Street project, that potential project between Brookings and Aurora. Did that at year end. And an update on the interchange. Bose received the bid for the interchange, came in under budget. I haven't heard yet, but pre-construction meeting held soon. Being held soon. I don't know, Commissioner Jensen, if you've heard anything about a date for pre-con, Brian?
There's a date set. They do not have a location set, but it will be February 10th.
February 10th. Okay.
At 1 p.m. I will update when I receive confirmation of where that will be located.
Okay. Samara Avenue, assigned $500,000 toward that project at year end. That's that update. American Rescue Plan Act. Final rules have been determined. Well, final rules for now. Who knows when the next final rules will be out on that. But you can spend up to $10 million. Kind of as a side note, I think I had forwarded that on to you yesterday that there's a webinar that our association is putting on with Bailey, who is our consultant on ARPA here up in the next couple, no, I think it's in a couple, isn't the 17th, I think,
February
maybe?
17th at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So I think I sent that information out to you. I plan to be in on that as well to hear what they have to say about that. Capital improvements, just some additional assignments that we did at year end. So 300,000 for security upgrades, and then we did assign 4 million for a new highway shop as well. That's there. So any other questions or anything on the work plan? I did include the strategic plan in the packet. I don't have any updates to that. Read through that at this point, and I have no other updates other than that we review that February of each year according to that plan. So nothing there unless you all saw something. I received this email from Todd Kays about a letter of support for two bills, House Bill 1033 and Senate Bill 53. Expand Governor's Office of Economic Development Local Infrastructure Improvement Project. Looking for a letter of support. I think there's a kind of a draft copy of a letter of support that I also included in the packet. Looking for consensus from the board if you would like to submit a letter of support on behalf of those bills, kind of through First District. We did receive a local infrastructure improvement grant, a number, that was back in 2014 for that stretch of road to serve Novita. I was just coming on as the commission department director at that time, and I remember working through kind of the process of doing those reports. So that was for that project. So we have benefited from that grant project in the past. So I guess I'm looking for direction. If there's a letter, kind of that draft letter of support. If you are interested, I will fill that out accordingly and get that back to Todd Kays with First District. Yes? 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 Okay.
There's quite a few, other than just us, there's quite a few Brookings County cities that have
Yes.
received
Yeah.
funds from this too. So
Yeah.
I think for all Brookings County, it has helped and worked.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I will do that. And then the only other thing that I have is just some upcoming dates. The 12th, the legislative forum is via Zoom. On the 14th, mentioned earlier, the Towns and Townships meeting at 10 o'clock out at the BCOAC, and that agenda, Misty had handed out that agenda, or had me hand that out this morning, so you could take a look at that. Office is closed for President's Day, and then the last legislative forum will be held here in the chambers on February 26th at 9:30. That's all I have today. I'm done.
Hooray.
In 3 parts.
Any follow-up questions?
Thank you for a report. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
All right, we will move on to item 11, State's Attorney's Office report. We were going to chat about the diversion program updates based on our, okay, super, thank you. Moving on to item 12, Commission reports and discussion items. Commissioner.
January 19th, I update the legislature by Zoom. Watched those of you that were personally present on the camera. Anyway, the sessions were good. And of particular interest to me was the presentation by Mike Bean from the South Dakota Department of Transportation, and his analysis that the DOT doesn't know right now how the infrastructure bill is going to impact the big program. And that maybe they're going to roll those together, maybe they'll stay separate. He really didn't know. So that's going to be interesting for us to watch because we've reached some of our limits on the big program. So if they make some of those changes, maybe we get to start over. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. On January 21st, I had a meeting with Paul Brazino and Steve Myers from Brookings Utilities. They had asked me if I would be interested in having a conversation about 34th Avenue. And they said during that meeting, I think it was Paul, it might have been Steve, somebody talked to you while you were out here, Larry. They wanted to talk about the fact that they are going to put utilities underneath 34th Avenue and how that project was going to work and how that might impact us and how we could work together. I listened to all of that. I think we're probably going to be supportive of all of that. I'm just making a guess there. But what I did say is, how about if you come and make a presentation to the commission so we all know what you're talking about? Not just will that impact 34th Avenue and maybe give us an opportunity to fix some of our drainage problems on 34th, but they're also going to run those utilities under the interchange. And so they're going to be moving fast. And it's going to run all the way along 27th Avenue, including in front of the BCOAC, and how they're going to be doing some things there. And again, I said, you know what? Come and tell everybody so we all know what's going on, what you got in mind. And did you get a reach out, Stacy? Okay, so one of them is going to reach out to Stacy to set up a time to come in and maybe give us some information on all that. So then on January 26th, I attended the legislative review by Zoom with Matt Krogman. Interesting, the bills that are out there. I don't know that I have anything specific to talk about if you're watching the Capitol Watch stuff that we're getting from our state organization. But I would encourage all of you, if you have time on any Wednesday afternoon between now and I think it's March 12th or 16th, at 4 o'clock to participate in that Zoom meeting. It's interesting. And Stacy sent us all of the sign-in information already. So on January 27th, I attended my first Brookings Domestic Shelter Board meeting, and that was nice. Again, they did everything by Zoom because the police station, they normally meet over there in their conference room, and they're shut down to public events because of COVID right now. And then the other thing, I had a phone call sometime maybe since our last meeting, and not this week, so it would have been last week, from Rich Euchre at Banner. And you remember that he and Steve Huff talked to us about 214 and maybe some of the stuff on Volga. And Rich wanted to know if we would be interested in having them do what he called a high-level overview of what it'll take to put 214 together for us. And I said, well, I can't speak for the commission if you're saying, would you want to come in and give us a proposal and say, this would help if we had this in place when you're looking for grants, which is what he had already said, and this is what it would cost for us to do this high level. I said, we'd be interested in hearing what it would cost and what you think we would get out of it. And then yesterday, after Stacy sent out that email from Brian regarding the Tiger Program, Build Program, all of those grant programs, which I will have to tell you, I thought the Build Program went away with the infrastructure bill, but it did not. And so the interchange grant that we've got, they're going to give another grant of that type in this upcoming year. I think, again, South Dakota will get 2, but I don't know that for sure. The grant deadline is April 16th, if you saw that. And Rich was going to reach out and talk to Steve and see if there's something there that we might want to be considering. Because if they gave us the grant program, or that grant for the interchange, and maybe they would be interested, and particularly since our senator said at his legislative luncheon that he would be supportive of finishing 214, and he has a lot of input on who gets those grants. Maybe this is the time for us to look at doing something, but we'll have to move fast. He was going to talk to HDR, and they're going to get back to us with some information on that. So just wanted to update you on that. That's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner
Just a
Bartley?
quick question to make sure on 34th or 214, Lieutenant Brian involved in those discussions, because it's very important to me anyway that we know what they're asking and what might be a pushback on issues or an advantage for us.
Right.
So
And
I
what
want to make
part
sure
of-
they're included.
What part of my concern is that, I mean, I hear a little piece, and Larry hears a little piece,
Exactly.
and Brian hears a little piece. I said this, come and talk to us all as a group, and Brian would be here for that. And then we'll know what you're thinking about and what we might want to do, so.
I guess maybe a suggestion would be that we have a lead person, and it would obviously be Brian in the conversations to put those things together and bring them to us, because obviously he knows more about it than any one of us except Larry over here, former highway superintendent. So I just would encourage that we follow through on those things with Brian involved heavily in it, maybe leading. As far as my report, the 19th, obviously went to the Brookings Day. I did see Leanna on Zoom. I know she was there. We didn't have a large contingent from Brookings. There was, I think, 8 or 9 of us. We had some SDSU people there. They had a large contingent, and thank goodness they did. Otherwise, we'd have looked pretty sparse at some of those meetings. But even President Dunn made all the presentations that were scheduled. It went well. It's always fun to get out there and see how they make the sausage, so to speak. And we sat in on the Senate, what they're hearing in women in sports, male sports, and males and women's sports, and watched that go through the Senate part of it. And now it'll be over on the House side. So we were recognizing both the House and the Senate this year. They allowed them to recognize us as being in attendance rather than somebody just saying Brookings Day is here. So it was kind of nice. We had a good time with that. A very good reception afterwards that Dan and I and Larry all stayed around for. We did a little extra at the reception. They had an awful lot of shrimp left over that they couldn't do anything with, so we ended up taking some shrimp back home for our friends and family. So we had all kinds of fun. We probably looked a little bit silly, but there weren't that many people left to watch us do that. But the people that were catering the event encouraged us to do so. We even brought out tins for us to put the food in. All right. So anyway, we had a good time, good trip. Dan drove out and back. We did well as far as that's concerned. So encouraged we go again next year and every year to the Brookings State Legislature. 27th, we had a jail meeting. It went well. The deconstruction of the current cells is going well. They've run into a couple of issues with some cracked walls and some things that need some re-support to continue on. And the engineers are going through that now, and I think they'll have it done. Marty's getting dust all over his place over there. There's a lot of dust when you deconstruct and a lot of noise when you do that. I think it's ahead of schedule because they got started a little bit early. So I think they'll be fine, except for the fact we always expect delays. We always know that's going to happen. Commissioner Boersma understands that. We think we have all the materials to move forward with the project in the pipeline, so I don't think we'll have the problems we had before with the jail where we're waiting for some equipment, that electronic equipment that wasn't available, and delayed us quite a bit. So I think that's going to move along just fine. We had some discussions on, there was a proposal to try to do something else with the roof, and we, because of budget concerns, decided not to replace the roof at that particular time, but with the advent of some money from the ARPA funds, we're going to explore the possibility as a separate project to complete the roofing so it ties in one time rather than trying to do it in two pieces. It probably isn't effective or efficient. That roof is years old and will need replacement. And once we start cutting holes in it, then I'm more concerned about its integrity. So we'll be looking at that as they come back with some proposals. We'll see what kind of costs we're looking at and where we can fund that type of process. The other part of it is possibly part of the facade on the original Sheriff's Department building. We chose to paint that rather than make any facade changes. And we'll look at that and decide if that's another project we want to take on with funds as we move ahead here to tie the entire project together. Other than that, it went well. We'll meet again in 2 weeks. That's my report.
Also went Brookings Day at the Capitol. Like Mike said, it was a good ride out and back, good conversation. And on Friday the 21st, I did attend Brenda from Beta, her retirement. Going away, Brenda's done a lot of good for Brookings, and I guess I hate to see her go, but she's moving on, and hope I wish her well. On the 27th, we did have a jail meeting. Mike's discussed about everything that we did. The roof, with the old roof that's there'll be cutting some new holes to install some new stuff, and we thought it was time if maybe we could use some of them ARPA funds to replace the whole thing at the same time and have a better package at the end of the completion of the project. On yesterday at the BCOA advisory board meeting, we've decided we're going to have bi-monthly meetings, but went a little longer, but we got a lot done. And Dustin gave us a great report. Things are going good out there. Numbers continue to go up, and it seems to me everything's going really well. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Krogman.
Okay, had a busy couple weeks here. Had my first E911 meeting on. Ended up having to chair that again, so that was interesting. But everything is. It was good to get back into that committee meeting again and hear all the good stuff, emergency dispatch and all that good things. So they're working on numbers, getting us numbers on stuff of what they're responding to and where the responses are at, and that's always good to get those numbers and stuff. So then I had a Brookings Housing Study meeting, which was an update of where they're going, and we're getting a good response. They are had some meetings with some SDSU students because that was an area that we were lacking in responses, mainly because they were gone for the break. And so we'll have another meeting here in the next week or so to get some more updates. That was also on the 20th. On the 21st, I went to Brenda's going away party, and to echo Larry's comments there, she's done a lot for Brookings. And but she's had another opportunity, and we wish her all the luck on that. Right now, Travis Bortnam is the interim director there. We're working on process of filling that position. The 25th, I spoke at Rotary about the housing study, and so they wanted kind of an update of that. They'd heard, and then they asked me to come back after everything's done with the housing study to present our findings to them there. So that was fun to go there again. On the 26th, I did have that beta meeting, and that's where Travis ran that, and we were putting in process of filling Brenda's position, and Travis is working as interim and keeping everything going as usual. Funding seems to be fine moving forward there, and so far so good with that. We haven't used up all of our funds. We're getting, well, I shouldn't say that we haven't. We have, but we have like $400 left. But so far it's been pretty good, and we've got about 6 months of money ready to go there too with the other funds that we have. So we're in decent position there. The 31st, yesterday, we had a BCOAC meeting, and again, our packet there, Dustin came up with a really nice graph similar to what Stacy did for us. He did the same thing, and talks about funds and people using it and where our money comes from, and it's very helpful, especially for the board to see that too. And then we had a Brookings Health meeting last night. They are really struggling with work staffing. Their food services basically is doing half capacity. They're making sure that the people in the hospital and their families are getting fed, and the nurses and doctors, but after that, they just don't have enough staffing to be able to even provide foods for the Brookhaven next year. They had to send that out. So staffing shortage is really tough on them right now. They have 30 plus positions open at the hospital, And then on top of that, obviously the COVID and the sickness that's going on. Last night, half of their staff called in sick for last night. Almost 30 people. So, and that's not just COVID, that's just the sicknesses that are going around and stuff. So they are really having a tough time. They need workforce, and so they're doing the best they can with what they have. Jason said he might be washing dishes here by next week if things don't change, and he said he's willing to do it. Other services required, I guess, but yeah, they're doing the best they can. They're trying to give great service with limited resources, but like you said, we'll get through it. So anyway, that was my couple weeks.
Commissioner Pierce.
I just have a question about E911. I was at a meeting that there'd been some reorganization of the dispatchers, and that they have 3 positions they're trying to fill. What's going on with all that?
I know one of those was a maternity leave, and so they were filling a temporary position. And then we authorized the addition of a couple more dispatchers because based on the population size and the call volume, the ability to maintain dispatch at least 2 full-time dispatchers on at any given time is part of the challenge that they were having. So there's some additional staffing that's coming up as a part of just growth in call volume and population.
Didn't we talk about they weren't going to have as many part-timers
Right.
also?
Yep.
Because they put them through the training and then
They'd leave.
very long. So they were going to more concentrate on full-time people. So.
Okay. So my last 2 weeks, the night, but online. And so you've heard plenty of that. And then on the Monday, the 24th, we had a Neco Next Gen planning meeting for the legislative conference, trying to put together that session and figure out what's going to be happening, how to do that hybrid, if that's what we plan to do or not. And then that afternoon, we also had a standing committee meeting for the Neco Arts and Culture Committee. And then the BEDC board meeting for Friday was postponed, but you probably all saw the announcement of the new CEO for Brookings Economic Development Corporation. So Tim Reed is going to take the helm of that. And we look forward to seeing how things shape up over there with new staffing and new leadership. So that's kind of the update from BEDC, and we'll wait to see what when we've got a chance to do our next board meeting, what that looks like. So that's it for my report. From there, I guess we have some from DANR and GFMP. Any questions on any of that? If not, we'll move on to item number 13, executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 6, for security information, 4 for contract negotiations, and 1 for personnel. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll take a quick 7-minute recess.